things going, buddy? What have you been up to?
Yeah, you know what? Same as usual. Always something to do. I'm always looking to forward my momentum in real estate investing. So today, this morning, there was an eviction that we had to take place. We had the sheriffs come out, but everything was, preset. I already had property managers in place. A locksmith was already there to respond. However, since I had really nothing going on, I figured I'm going to go and watch the show. So I went by this morning to go take a look at it, just in case if anything went awry. But the tenants took it to the last day and they left the night before. So even though the sheriffs did a knock and notice and lockout, well, no one was inside.
Right. Well, you know what? And again, that's just part of the part of having a business, a real estate business.
Yep.
And that's what you've got. It's a business. It's not. I know it's not a hobby, which is great. But some crazy things are happening in the market right now. I don't know if you've noticed where interest rates are at right now.
I don't know, man. I'm hearing word that it's probably around 8% or higher. What have you heard?
Well, yeah, I'm not surprised it's there. I follow the 10-year note, and I remember when interest rates were right around 2.5%, 3%. That 10-year was at almost zero, and within a year, it's up at almost like 4.8. Which is huge in a year. I mean, if you go from zero to, that's like a 400% increase in 1 year type of thing.
There's always something new to learn because, just a couple of years ago, I was purchasing at 3.5, 3.6, 3.7, 3.9, 4, literally in less than 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm purchasing now at just my recent 2 deals. It was at 6.7, and then literally I closed it. 1 week later, got another deal, 7.5. It's crazy.
Well, I know. So that begs the question: with the interest rates where they're at, should people be investing right now, or should they be sitting on the sidelines waiting? What are your thoughts on that?
I think this goes back to the old saying that you shouldn't try to time the market.
Okay.
The best time to buy is always now. Buy as much as you can afford now. So when you unpack that, 2 things come out of it. One, obviously, the most obvious is don't wait. Don't wait till the interest rate drops. But 2, when you take the second part of that statement, buy what you can afford now, right now, it means that based on whatever the economic conditions or financing conditions are, work with that. Don't be so picky, because remember, this is an investment. This is an investment podcast. We're not buying to live in. We're buying to invest. So some folks really want that beautiful, shiny object out there, perfect turnkey. You're going to pay a premium. If you can't afford to do that, and you feel that that's what you want, then you'll never be able to catch up. So buy what you can afford now also means you have to go to perhaps not as good looking of a neighborhood, maybe not as good looking of a house, but if the prices are where you can afford now, I personally believe that you have a greater chance of success as a real estate investor if you buy anytime you can afford, anywhere right now. Obviously, as long as it cash flows, as long as you have good solid foundations, I think you should wait. And that's my personal opinion. How about you?
I agree with you. And so a couple of things on that. Number one, buy what you can afford. And of course, the flip side of that is if you can't afford it, don't buy it. You just don't have to. You can sit back and wait, and you can negotiate it, try to negotiate the price down. And if it doesn't meet your criteria as far as cash flow and other factors, well, you don't have to buy. So that's the other side of it. And the other part of that whole thing is, okay, you're absolutely right. If you can't afford here, go somewhere else. So number one, I agree with you. Maybe you go to a different type of market instead of a B, or certainly an A, very expensive. But maybe you're liking the B type of markets. Well, I can't really afford it. Okay, drop down to a C, maybe C plus, maybe C minus, right? And then the other part of that is that, okay, well, maybe I need to really go farther out, go out of state. And in order to do that, well, then there's a whole, some different skill sets that you have to acquire and to be willing to take on that risk. So a big part of buying right now is willing to accept whatever that risk is. But I don't see that as such a problem with the higher interest rates, because that's what we're kind of focused on. Because if you can afford, just like you said, at 8%, what that means, and hopefully, it's meeting all your criteria. What that means is that when interest rates drop in, 1 or 2 or even 3 years, that's going to just pop up your cash flow at that point, because you can refinance it at that lower. So if you bought at 8, let's say you refinance at 5.5, because I don't know that we'll ever see 4, let alone 3% interest rates, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that was a once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah, and we lived through it. Lucky us.
I know.
But again, you buy at 8, you refinance at 5.5. That's going to be a nice chunk of change. Also, coming into your pocket, assuming you were already doing okay. Maybe you were breaking even, maybe making 2 or 3% on your money. Next thing you know, you're making 8, 9% because of the refinance. So something for our audience to keep in mind when they're thinking, oh, interest rates are kind of high. I don't know. So
well, I'll take it to another step.
Okay.
So what a lot of people don't ever think about is the opportunity costs, the waiting game, right?
Yes.
If you buy now, what happens is not only are you stepping into the market, gaining experience, but what it does is it also allows you to control an asset right now, which is something tangible for you to exchange, grow, depreciate, appreciate, all these other things that go into real estate investing. If you just have cash and you're just holding on to cash, that's all you have. Yeah. With natural inflation, your cash just dwindles in buying power anyway.
Right.
So I'll give you a quick example. Let's say you have $100,000, right? And during a time where the interest rates were a lot lower and the economic times were a little different, like last year or the year prior, you could probably buy something with 20% down as an investment and do really well because interest rates were low. You could afford more. So for example, you can buy something for $500,000. You put, 20% down as $100,000. Okay. Let's say you financed it at 4%, let's just say. Well, that's about roughly $2,000 a month amortized, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
So now you take that same scenario, you have $100,000 today, and the interest rates have doubled to 8%. And because of that, you have to mitigate the payment. If you can only afford to pay $2,000 and it's at 8%, then probably means you have to go out and buy yourself a $400,000 property or $350,000 property. Put that $100,000 down, which is more than 20% now. Mm-hmm. Borrow $250,000 at 8%. You're back to a $2,000 payment. Goes back to change your criteria to fit to get into the market now. An A-class area in Southern California is not equal to an A-class area in, Milwaukee or in Virginia or in Maine. An A-class area in Southern California for the average house is probably $1 to $1.3 million. That exact same home configuration in a different part of the United States may be $200,000 to $300,000 right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the rents are probably almost comparable or better, because the place that you're buying for $1 million here in Southern California, you're not going to get $10,000 a month on it. You'll probably get $4,000 or $5,000 a month, realistically at best. But that's about 50. That's like a 0.5% rule to the value of the house that you just purchased. Versus if you bought, let's say, in Virginia or in Florida or in Tennessee or something, and it is like the example we use, a $350,000 house, you may still get $2,500 a month for that type of sized house or mixed house, or maybe close to $3,000. You're not going to get the $5,000 in California, but boy, you sure as heck just pretty much met that 1% rule. You're going to make a profit, and you're in the game, and you have a chance to exchange this tangible object you control.
Well, let me give you a good example. Remember, I mentioned that I had that one property that came across my my computer this morning or earlier today.
Yeah.
So it was a triplex in Brownsburg, Indiana. Have you ever heard of Brownsburg, Indiana?
Not at all.
Not at all. I know. I'd never heard of it until I saw it. Brownsburg, Indiana is 18 miles just west of Indianapolis.
Okay.
And the population has been growing tremendously. Like I looked at that the population curve. I mean, it's just going straight up. And the average income for that little town of about 30,000 is like 109,000 a year.
Wow.
So, I know.
Wow.
And the triplex, it was a triplex for $350,000.
Whoa.
I know, I'm telling you.
That is a solid market.
That's a solid market.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at, I immediately contacted the real estate agent. Hey, start looking into this property. And I checked out the rents on Rentometer. And it was 1 2-bedroom and 2 1-bedrooms. And they were they were averaging about $1,200 a month.
Oh, that's not bad, man.
No, because that's 3,600. Price was 350,000.
Yeah.
More than met the 1% rule. But that's the one where I told you I didn't get a chance to really do too much more than that because and I didn't get a chance to check the debt on what that would be if I put down, on $350,000, you put down $70,000, and that's even less than your $100,000 example. So those deals are out there if you know how to look for them, and you've made the calls and you've talked to the real estate agents, and you had real estate agents tell you to go pound sand, but there'll be enough that'll say, yeah, if I get something, I'll shoot it your way,
Yeah.
So that's a perfect example of, finding that market, changing your criteria to meet what's out there. I'm going to go for it. Why not?
Yeah.
So
opportunity cost to me is the lack of understanding of the internal rate of return when you're controlling an asset, right? Absolutely. The moment you have control of that asset, what people forget is, okay, yes, the interest rate is high. You might not cash flow as much, but now you have access to depreciation. You have access to appreciation. You have access to rent raises, because if you didn't buy and you're waiting, you have no rent to raise, right? Right. You have access to the exchangeability of the equity, right? You have, I think the one biggest thing that real estate at its core, people forget, it's almost like gold, because it's such a stable placeholder of value, of cash. Whereas we know through history, it doesn't matter what nation you're coming from, money loses value at a set rate on average, generally controlled by the powers that be over that government. Right. And most governments want it to be around 2 to 3%. And we know it's always around 2 to 3% on average over the course of time, year over year over year.
Right.
Real estate, we know over the course of time naturally appreciates roughly 3 to 5% year over year over year over year. So at the bare minimum of all of worst case scenarios, at least your money that you put in is still valued at what you put in later.
Yes, no, good point. And you know what? The market right now is so weird because, but I think that it's a good thing to go out there and buy it, even though it's weird, because the weirdness of the market right now is that with interest rates going up, you would think that prices would be coming down.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that would be the normal thing. But prices are coming down. If they're coming down a teeny weeny bit, right? Like that property that I told you about right now, the price was actually reduced by $10,000. So it had been posted for 360. Now they're trying to get, or 370. Now they're trying to get 360. So and I don't see it dropping too much more because of the way it's structured. And someone's going to pick it up really quickly. If not me, someone else will. Yeah. Right. So I think you absolutely have to look for these properties. You absolutely have to make the move and get in the game, just like you said, because otherwise the opportunity cost,
A partner, I had a conversation with our friend Jose Ceja. I'm going to drop his name on this podcast. I had talked to him today, and I had mentioned something to him, and I remember once you just said that. Opportunity, they come and go, and they come in fleeting moments, right? Mm-hmm. You can't control opportunity. That's why it's called an opportunity. Either you have it or you don't, right? What you can control is the effort that you're going to put in to seize that opportunity. So if you recognize this based on your knowledge and experience of real estate investing, and you know this is a good opportunity, make every effort, use every ounce of energy, and seize that moment. Take control of it.
Absolutely.
That's the one thing that will set you apart from everybody else.
Yeah.
Everybody can sit here and wish they had this and want that and dream of that. But if they don't make the effort and put in the work to get it, they will never get it. And that's just the reality. And the guys who might not quite be able to get it on average, but they put in that work, oftentimes they'll get it. They will exceed their potential as long as they will put in that effort.